Recently, I've been going back and rewatching all of the Game Chasers. If you don't know who they are, they're like American Pickers, but for going after games. And it kind of made me miss my own game chasing of retro games and all of the fun little stuff I used to go through with my brother and just going to flea markets and conventions and stuff like that. It made me then realize retro games suck. Let me get into that a little bit later. But my first gaming memory, or even my first memory, really was playing my dad's uh, NES from college. He had Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt, and then some Simpsons game, but I was so young they didn't let me play it just in case. It was probably my mom. But I loved those games. I loved shooting the ducks, even though my mom probably didn't like that I was using a toy gun, and just learning Super Mario Bros. I mean, I was like probably like 2 or 3 when I was first playing it, but it kind of died down a little bit. Like I really didn't play much. I was watching a lot of hockey and stuff like that, but it came back in a way when one of my preschool teachers. This is a weird one. Put hundreds, I mean hundreds, if not maybe like the whole library of NES and Super Nintendo games. He emulated it on our kindergarten PC. It was wild. It was something that you had to earn to go play, so it wasn't like available the entire time. That's kind of where I also got my first love of the DuckTales video game. Don't hate on the gameplay, please. Um, I loved the show. I'm a '90s kid. I know I'm not a only '90s kid. Remember? No, like it was on reruns for Disney Channel and stuff like that when I was getting ready to go to preschool or kindergarten. So that's kind of how I loved DuckTales as a solid, and I had to play it. So we're gonna fast forward just a little bit to my freshman year of high school. Yeah, I know. Going from kindergarten to high school is a big little jump. But in that time frame, I got really obsessed with playing like the original hits of the day. So like I was playing like Halo, I was playing like the Harry Potter games, stuff that was of that time period. But for some reason though, like freshman year, I wanted to play Mario and all those games again. And I was kind of getting tired of playing like Call of Duty and Halo and Gears of War. I played multiplayer a lot, so that also probably where my burnout came from some of those games. Asked my dad, "Hey yo, where's the NES?" He shoots back me, "Yeah, I got rid of that. Why would I keep that?" I'm like, I was floored. It's like, how do you get rid of that? Who gets rid of their games? It kind of sucked because then I was going to go look for an NES on eBay. I'm like, I don't got much money. They shouldn't be expensive. At that time, boy, was I wrong. That's essentially when the nostalgia started to kick into a lot of people. A lot of people who had that stuff as kids were buying it back, so the prices on them just were ridiculous for what they were. Like I was seeing, like, and this was about like 2009, 2010. The prices just skyrocketed. Everyone thought they had gold in gray plastic form, and that killed me. The NES around that time, from what I remember seeing, and like I'm saying, the system with like severe yellowing and everything was $100. That's absurd for the condition that it was in. And for $100 for a high school kid, like a high school freshman, that seemed like a lot of money for me. I had just got my first girlfriend and everything. Like, I mean, I didn't have that money to spend. What are you, nuts? If I knew what the prices were going to be like at that time, I would have made more of a point to hold on to it and not let the NES go. Like I would have made sure I held on to it and not my dad. He didn't know what he was getting into either, so he just thought it was just a system and a fad kind of thing for him. The realization of pricing of retro games got so much worse when I got back into Pokemon. PokeTubing and all of that wasn't massive. Like the top guys that are watching only had like about 40,000 subs or such on YouTube. So I'm thinking, okay, there's not a massive community for this. I should be able to get games for like 10 or 15 bucks. I was really going to get gold back, but I ended up getting the reason I got 10 15 from that price range was a kid sold me leaf green for 15 bucks. So I was thinking, okay, so gold, crystal, and silver should be cheaper, right? They're older. Look, I was a moron. I get it. Oh boy, was I wrong. I went to New York and I saw the Pokemon uh, DS, like the Pikachu one, which I now own and it's somewhere. But the problem for it was that every game, including Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and just all of those games were just absurdly priced. And I anywhere from like 60 bucks to like I want to say 80 for like perfect condition unopened, which I was kind of thinking I should go for. I didn't want used games. Yeah, and much different than the $10 to $15. I then came to realize that Pokemon, the prices don't come down on it, and that makes sense to me. Some of the older games, like the cartridge games, the price goes up. The DS games, they stay about the same price that they are. Thank God I got Heart Gold when I did. Thank God for my mom realizing I wasn't just a weird high school kid. I mean, I was a weird high school kid, but not for liking Pokemon, for other reasons. But it was funny. In my senior year of high school, I actually got Pokemon Crystal. I never had Pokemon Crystal before. But I was sitting in my high school algebra class. It was the end of the year. We didn't have anything to do. I already took my end of the year tests. We were kind of just waiting for graduation, and we were looking at some of the colleges that we were all going to. I put on one of my favorite PokeTubers, Hayden, at the time. I was watching him play through Pokemon. Well, who's sitting behind me but the star high school football player? He just was like, who watches Pokemon? And I nearly crapped myself. I'm like, oh God, am I going to be labeled as the big dork at the very end of the year? No, he and I actually then had a very long discussion about Pokemon and how different it actually is, and it plays to how we were as kids and everything. The very next day after that conversation, he comes back. He brought his own Game Boy in and is playing Pokemon Silver. He goes, "Hey, thanks for getting me back into Pokemon. It really means a lot to me." And he hands me Crystal. I'm like, dude, I can't even give you cash. He goes, nah, just take it. But so like we see my issues with pricing, and that's kind of something that a lot of people don't understand going into looking at retro games. Not everything's gold, but you don't know what is going to be gold. Everything technically goes retro at this point. Halo 1 is retro. There's times when I still thought that was a current game, and I still, to this day, even think it's current gen, or not current gen, but current in today's society. I wouldn't consider it retro, but there's people that do. The problem really also lies with how we buy our games. Obviously, we're going to be buying the games we want. Like, I'm going to be buying the new Call of Duty next fall. Yes, I know it's not the best series, but it's a series that I like to play with my friends and I like to just chill out with. I'm going to buy the new Pokemon whenever that comes out. But then, what about the games that we're on the fence about? Are we just going to buy just in case this game becomes worth anything and then we can sell it back years down the line? I don't like that. I really, really don't. But at the same time, I get it. It's like buying stocks in a way. Maybe these aren't going to be gold, but maybe they might be worth $30 more in the future. Even if you do get like maybe an hour worth of enjoyment out of it, at least you have it and got something out of it. I know people that bought physical copies of Mighty Number 9, even though everyone knows that game sucks. They just bought it because they bought it thinking that it's going to be worth something one day. I mean, if you think about it now, Fortnite, one of the biggest games in the world, I know it's dying off a little bit now, but unopened discs of it, yeah, there were discs of Fortnite are now selling for $100. That is ridiculous. And soon, with how it's going in the market now, we might not even have physical games anymore. I hope to God that's not right. Like, there's very few games that I buy digital, but that's only because I can't get it physical. I love being able to own it, and we've seen with people like Nintendo that buying a digital game doesn't mean you own it, and that sucks. When I buy something, I want to own it. I want that to be mine for as ever long as I got it. I imported Lethal League Blaze from Japan because I wanted to own it and support it in that way. Remasters are also something that's cool, but it's just not the same with the retro. As you're seeing, I'm playing DuckTales, but DuckTales it's not the same sprites and everything. Like, they look great and everything, and they look great on HD, but it just doesn't have that same quality or nostalgia. Heart Gold Soul Silver is one of the best Pokemon games of all time. Gold, mainly because that's what I had at the time, is my favorite Pokemon generation. The second generation is my favorite. Heart Gold, great game in its own right, but it doesn't hold the same level of nostalgia or feelings for me, even though I do love that game as well. I have the Afternoon Collection, which has two super ungodly rare games I will never own in DuckTales 2 and Rescue Rangers. That's kind of why I bought it. I want to be able to play those games, but how much cooler would it be if I could have it in my possession and play it on one of my retro systems or my Retron 5. I know Retron 5 has its own issues in the retro community, and you know what? I don't care. I like being able to play my games on HD on the original carts. My big issue also with those games, with DuckTales and Rescue Rangers 2, is this game isn't on a physical disc. It's not a physical cartridge. It's not on the Switch. Like, I would much rather play on the Switch than the Xbox. But I just want to be able to own it and hold it and know that it will always be mine. I don't want to buy games that I don't care about just for the fact that it might be rare and worth something one day. I just want to be able to buy games and enjoy them. That is where I think retro games suck.